After months of investigations, Joy News can confirm there is massive corruption at the nation's premier teaching hospital.
You see the first bill?
Yeah, I saw the first bill. It was around 1,450 Ghana cedi, almost 1,500 Ghana cedi. So they said they will do something about it. So the worker and it came to 800 Ghana cedi.
My name is Bright Nana Amfu, and this is today's big story. The Joy News investigations has revealed that some accountants at the hospital have reduced the bills of payments by half. They then take part of the remaining half as bribe while the patients receive a waiver. After gathering substantial evidence, Manasseh Azuri Awini confronted them with the damning revelations which they confirmed and accepted responsibility. But they claim they were doing so on humanitarian grounds, and the money they received was a thank you gesture from the patients.
Did you see the first bill?
Yeah, I saw the first bill. It was around 1,450 Ghana cedi, almost 1,500 Ghana cedi. So they said they will do something about it. So the worker and it came to 800 Ghana cedi. They said no, they will still do something about it. So initially, the guy told me that they'll divide the whole thing into two. So that's 750 Ghana cedi. Sorry, 750 Ghana cedi.
So the bill, which was almost 1,500, was slashed to 750 Ghana cedis. Okay.
So the rest, they say okay, they'll divide into two. So I'll take half. They also take half.
How?
If they divide the 1,500, it will be 750 Ghana cedi. So divide that one two. So when they divided, we got about 377 Ghana cedi. So they say okay, if fine, I should give them round figure. I should give them 300 Ghana cedi. Then I will pay 750 Ghana cedi to Korle.
If purely on humanitarian grounds, right? So we all took the decision.
So if you took a decision, what exactly did you decide to do to help him?
We decided to bring the bill a little bit down for him. Right.
Do you have any idea, or do you still remember exactly how much you were able to beat it down to?
Between, I think, 700 to, like, if not 75, 78. I can't type. But I think he pay less than 800 Ghana cedis here.
And how did you manage to do that?
We have variables, right? So we use the date of admission and the date of discharge to work the bills. So we reduce the number of days that the mother was on admission. Right.
Did you know that was illegal?
Yeah, sure. At least after payment of the bill, something was left on him. So he decided out of that to show his appreciation.
So if you had asked him to pay the 1,500, would he have come back to do that?
No.
I know Korle is losing if you do this. Do you know that?
That on that one, right?
I'm just asking a simple question. That what you did, Korle is losing. The hospital is being shortchanged. Do you know that?
Yes, I do.
Right, and so Manasseh Awini exposing the rot at the Korle Teaching Hospital there. He's just joined me in the studio. Manasseh, welcome. And this is quite strange. How is it done? Accountants robbing patients? Is that what is done there?
Well, Bright, if you visit Korle of late, what happens is that no fiscal cash is paid to the accountants.
Right.
In the past, there were concerns that when these monies are paid to the accountants, not everything gets to the hospital. And so what they do is that they now pay to banks. So if you go to the hospital, you are giving your bill, you go and pay to the bank and not to the accountants. But before you even go to pay to the bank, if you are admitted or whatever services you are provided with, the doctor or the nurses would prepare a folder for you. a particular sheet which you will take to the accounts department, and the accounts department will prepare your bill for you to pay. And so what happens mostly and sometimes is that when these patients take their bills, their records to the accounts department for the bills, the accounts officers in this case connive with them and beat it down. Let me take the case of this particular incident I looked at.
Right.
This young man was supposed to have paid 1,500 Ghana cedis to the hospital. But when he went and realized, or he was told that his mother's sickness was not covered by the National Health Insurance, he said, oh, this is a bit too high. And so the accounts officer said, well, we can help you. But this is what we do. We will beat down your bill.
Right.
Reduce it by half. So they reduced the bill by half. So the guy paid 750 to Korle and paid 300 Ghana cedis to the accountant. That's what he said. And then he had a waiver of 500 Ghana cedis. So Korle was supposed to get 1,500, but Korle got half of that.
That money?
Yes, that's 750 Ghana cedis. When I contacted these people, and the 3 accountants were involved, and I have their names here, Michael Atto, Kingsford Amuzu, and Eric Nana Kwesi Ankobia. These are account officers at the surgical department of the Korle Teaching Hospital. I met them face to face with all the evidence, and they could not deny, but as we heard them say, they said it was on humanitarian basis, but confessed the guy gave them money, but it wasn't 300 Ghana cedis, but it was 100 Ghana cedis he gave to the 3 of them.
So they connive with the patients and beat down what they're supposed to pay, and then they pocket what the patients give them.
Oh, yes. And according to this particular patient, he did not even give them, they demanded, or it was part of the deal, that you are supposed to pay 1,500 Ghana cedis, but this is what we do for you. We will beat it down to 1,000 for you, but out of that 1,000, Korle is going to get 750.
Right.
Okay, but you pay 300 cedis to us. And so it is an agreement at the very beginning, even before they prepare your bill, if that is what they do for all these other people. And this guy who was there, he was there with another young woman who also had a mother there. And at the end of the day, they also did the same thing for this young woman, but she wouldn't want to be recorded. She wouldn't want to come out. And some of those people say, oh, it has already happened. I don't want to be in the news for one reason or the other. But this is what
is happening. So apart from they taking money from the patients, Korle is also losing millions of cedis, I guess.
Oh yes, Korle loses. And when I went doing this investigation, I had the opportunity to visit some of the wards, and the situation there is very terrible. At the recovery ward of the maternity block, for instance, they didn't have an air conditioner, and they said they had been without an air conditioner for 1 month. And when I asked the acting head of department, she said they were waiting for money to buy one, because for the past year it had been repaired over 10 times. And so you visit some of the wards and you realize they have real challenges. And when you speak to them, they complain there is no money. But this is one way through which money is lost. And the most interesting aspect of it is very difficult to detect, because what they do now is that, oh, we don't pay cash to accountants, so the accountants cannot get hold of money. So it looks like monitoring that aspect becomes a bit relaxed from what I gathered. But these people have found a way of getting into this kind of transaction with some of the patients.
If from your investigations, how long could this have been going on?
For God knows how long, because we spoke to the board chairman, Mr. Dianan, and he said when he came to the Korle board a little over a year ago, they detected a lot of things were going on. But this particular act, when I spoke to people there, it was as if it is very new, because hardly would you find accountant keeping money, and they now know that because of that system, it is like a foolproof system, so that monies would not go into wrong hands.
Right.
And when you really go to Korle, we find a lot of notices, don't pay money at any other point apart from the designated points. And so it is very safe So they presume. But these accountants, even before you take your bill and go to pay to the bank, they have their share. It is very difficult to detect.
So, Korle Bu, in attempt at perhaps removing or getting rid of the human element in the issue of bill payment, decided to bring in the banks.
Oh, yes.
And yet, these accountants have been able to go around it and in a way are still milking Korle Bu.
It's like they always say the thief is always a step ahead of the policeman. And this is what seems to be happening. But I think maybe with this, they would find a way of stopping it. What I have realized is that if there is a system to check the information which the nurses give to the patient to take to the accounts department to prepare the folders or to prepare the bill, if there's a way of tracking and then checking, that can be stopped. And it will be a bit difficult to stop that if the account officials are able to connive with nurses or whoever writes on the patient's folder. But for now, if that is not done, any accounts official can connive with the patient and then do it. But if there's a system to check or track the file from the hospital ward to the accounts department and then finally to the payment point at the bank, if that system is there, then the accounts officer or the accountant would have to get the connivance of someone
all those
yes,
in the line to be able to do that.
Yes, but it seems now when the patient takes it there, they prepare the bill. And I was just imagining if this account officer or accountant happens to get hold of the medical records or the bill of maybe a relative, they can just decide to let them go scot-free.
And not pay anything at all.
Oh, yes, and it's a bit worrying.
You interacted with management of Korle Bu. Do they, in a way, suspect that this could be happening, or you found them totally or completely unaware that this could be happening?
For this particular incident, I'm not sure they were aware of it, but the management has put in they are actually restructuring Korle Bu. I happen to have spoken to a lot of them. I spoke to the former immediate past CEO. I spoke to the board chairman, Edianan. I've spoken to the acting CEO and other members of the board and some members of management. And now what is ongoing, and there's even a restructuring committee put in place to ensure that some of these loopholes are sealed, because according to them, Korle Bu is losing so much money. Things seem not to be working the way they should work. And at the end of the day, it's the patient who suffers. And I can tell you, I went to the emergency unit and I saw someone who was being resuscitated on a plastic chair. And at the maternity ward, the acting head told me sometimes women come in labor and they're forced to be on wheelchairs because there are no beds.
There are no beds. Man, as you hold it, let me try and speak. We've been trying hard to get in touch with the public relations officer of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. He's not picking his phone. We've been trying hard to get other authorities to react to this. We're still not getting them. But let me speak to the executive director of the African Parliamentarian Network Against Corruption, Mr. Daniel Batidam. Let's try and see what is happening at Korle Bu. Mirrors the way corruption has eaten into the fiber of the Ghanaian society. Mr. Batidam, thanks so much for your time once again.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
Sure, you have heard of accountants at Korle Bu milking the health facility in connivance with patients. And first of all, does it mirror the way corruption has eaten into the fabric of the Ghanaian society?
Well, thank you once again. And I think, well, I don't know whether it is just about Ghanaian society. I think it shows the extent to which corruption has eaten into society and to the fiber of the moral fiber of our society as a whole. I dare say that there is evidence to show that in many countries around the world, especially in Africa, you find these kind of situations. You would recall that in 2006, Transparency International focused their global corruption report on the health sector. And I recall that as the executive head of GII at the time, we launched that report in which we cited examples of the nature that we are hearing about today. So in terms of it being something in the system, it has been there for some time, unfortunate as it is. But I think all of us have to understand that when it comes to corruption in the health sector, it's a matter of life and death. And that is the bottom line. That is where all of us must be worried if we get the kind of stories that Manasseh and other hard-working journalists are bringing into the public domain. Much as we agree that corruption anywhere is unacceptable, when it comes to the health sector, education, and some of the aspects of our social life that border on our very survival and of life itself, then I think it's a matter that we should all be worried about.
Do you think that perhaps we are not punishing corrupt practices enough, and so it has become, let's do it. It won't end anywhere. We will not get that punishment that perhaps we deserve. We're not punishing enough, and so it keeps going on, and sometimes even getting worse.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And some of us have expressed worry that what I would call some level of permissiveness is permeating our society, which is even making it very dangerous, because I can tell you, I have a few people calling me up every now and then and saying, well, this thing you keep talking about, for all these years, nothing is changing and nothing will change. And I kind of get alarmed to hear these kind of things, because if people have reached a point where they are even almost giving up about the possibility of a change, then all of us have a problem on our hands. Public office and all these public institutions are about public trust. And if we have reached a point where public trust in these institutions and in the officials that work in them has waned or even gotten to a point of zero, I think it's time for us to make a wake-up call and say, hey, we better get up and do something now, or we should be ready for some calamity of sort. And I think that any government, any people, any society that finds itself in this kind of situation ought to see the need for something eminent to be done about corruption, and we should move away from talking politics, politicizing corruption, and saying that it is about the government of the day or about some particular people. We are talking now about systemic and institutional corruption. And when a society finds itself at that stage, you are actually you are heading towards a failed state. And I'm sure none of us would like to see ourselves at that point.
For those of you who, let me put it this way, anti-corruption crusaders, when you hear these stories, when the Manassehs go out and bring these stories, how does it impact on your will to go ahead and fight the canker?
Well, I've had many occasions to commend Manasseh, in particular, the Joy FM and the multimedia group as a whole, and indeed all the journalists that are out there doing something. For me, it is a sign of solidarity, and that even though I know personally the challenges that individuals and organizations and the media practitioners go through in order to bring this to the public domain, I think it is consoling to find people still doing this kind of work, people like Manasseh and the rest of you. But I think let us not create a situation where those who are supposed to be responsible for taking this beyond the revelations that are made, let us not allow them to go scot-free. Let us press home the fact that we bring these things out for something to be done, and that if nothing is being done, or if people don't give us a sign that they are ready to do something, and by people I mean the government,
right?
Then we ought to give them a warning that there will be consequences. There will be consequences, and the consequences are not just about elections and whether you will be voted for again. Indeed, I believe strongly that if we continue in this path, we continue on this path. 2016, there should be only one issue to discuss when it comes to the elections: how anybody who is asking for our vote is going to tackle corruption. We don't need to discuss any other thing, because we've had enough of the talk, we have had enough of the promises. Now and we have had enough of the failed promises. Now it is time to ask people to tell us exactly how they are going to tackle these things that are repeatedly happening every now and then, and yet we continue hearing promises, we continue hearing directives that go nowhere. And I think if such a warning is sufficiently sounded by you in the media and by all of us in the fraternity, we will certainly get a response at some point.
Let me pick your brain on this particular issue to wrap up with. Now, what has happened at Korle involves accountants. I would prefer to call them small flies. They are just, tomorrow we can hear management of Korle asking them to leave because of what has happened. But sometimes the big ones are there. And yet it takes investigations upon investigations upon investigations before we get them. That is, if we will get them at all. Now, if these accountants get dismissed, if it is proved that what went on is really wrong, would it have served notice, proper notice, that we are indeed fighting corruption?
Well, I'm afraid this is the unfortunate thing we see. We see small fishes being fried and the big ones being let loose or being given the opportunity to walk away scot-free. This is most unfortunate. As we normally say, a fish begins to rot from the head, and so if we want to tackle it, we must tackle from the head. There can be no excuses. The buck stops with the head. And I think that it will not be enough to just punish small fishes and small lower level officials and leave the ultimate responsibility is on the head in any institution. And indeed, ultimate responsibility for good governance, for accountability, and for the rule of law and everything ends with the government at the highest level. And I think that if people have to see a sign that there is a commitment to tackling the problem, we would like to see the head ruling from the head and not just from the lower levels. And I'm hoping that it doesn't end this. And mind you, these things are about networks and systems. So to go and pull out one small official or an accountant and think that you have dealt with the problem for me is a joke. I call it shadow boxing. We need a real commitment to the fight against corruption, and that commitment has to come from the top. That commitment has to be demonstrated by us tackling the entire system and not just picking the small fishes that we find along the line. So this would be my take on this issue.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Daniel Batidam, as the Executive Director of the African Parliamentarian Network Against Corruption there, talking to me about corruption if has eaten into the fabric of society. Let me come back to Manasseh. Now, before we left off, you were talking about some kind of restructuring at Korle. Can it take care of situations like this?
Well, that I am not very sure, but if the systems are working, I spoke to the former CEO, Professor Hesse, and what she said was that a lot of such people in Korle are looking forward to take advantage of the weak system. So if systems are not working, some of these things would occur. But as I said earlier on, if there is a clear system to monitor a patient's folder from the ward up to the accounts department where the bill is prepared to the point of payment, then it will be very difficult. Normally, you cannot have a system that is perfect, that will do away with every single corrupt practice, but it can be reduced significantly.
Right.
And let me also say, I don't agree when we talk about small flies. This particular incident I'm talking about, the hospital lost 750 Ghana cedis. All Ghana cedis, that's 7.5 million. Okay? So just imagine the number of other people, the number of people who go through this daily and weekly monthly, and then in a whole year, if you put them together, you cannot calculate how much the hospital will be losing.
So you think that is equally important, but the point Batidam perhaps was trying to make is that you find these people getting caught in the net, and then the next day you find all directors asking them to vacate their post. Meanwhile, there are huge practices that they will tell you we need to investigate. That is a worry.
Well, I think it is in order. That particular call or worry is legitimate because when you go to every institution, and I always say we cannot fight corruption from the bottom. You have to fight it from above. Assuming a minister is corrupt and let's say the president fires that minister, okay, he would send a warning to all the directors within that ministry, all employees within that ministry, that if a minister is fired for corruption, then I can also be fired.
You can easily go yourself, yes. Right.
So sometimes certain actions are taken and at the top, and it has a trickle-down effect on everybody within that particular sector. And so I think it is a very legitimate call, but it should be at all angles. And I always say that we are all part of the problem and should all be part of the solution. Because sometimes when we talk about corruption, we look only at politicians. But I have realized business people, individuals, teachers, doctors, almost everybody, and our institution, the media, I think we are one of the most corrupt.
Let's wrap up. Now, when you spoke to management of Korle, the board chairman, Mr. Diana, did you see that eagerness, that urgency to get this matter quickly looked at and perhaps sanctions applied?
Oh, yes, I can see that urgency, and there are other issues that are on board. Sometimes we cannot be 100% sure,
right?
But from what I know, the current board and some management members are trying to work hard in order to iron out these issues, because this is not an isolated case. There are issues of stealing of consumables and over-invoicing, a whole lot of rot in Korle.
And it did to be checked.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Yeah, well.
Manasi Azuria Winnie there, talking to me about the rot at Korle accountants and milking the health facility and making money whilst Korle is suffering from poor and inadequate infrastructure. This is only the first part of the show, and when we come back, we'll still stay on this particular issue. Is the public involved in these corrupt practices? How are we all culpable of helping officials to milk the facility there, Korle Teaching Hospital? I'm coming back with the next segment with the lady Marian. Stay right there. This is today's big story.